What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Week 12 edition of the Fantasy Football Guy podcast. I'm your host, Guy Vataco. This is brought to you by NSTV. Thank you again, NSTV, for allowing me to use this beautiful podcast studio every Wednesday. Yes, we are heading into week number 12, the second to last week of your regular season in fantasy football. This is a massive week for all owners. This is a week you cannot make a mistake. You must get your decisions right. This is a week to ask questions if you have. This is a huge week. If you lose this week, you could end your season. If you win this week, you can be a 1 seed. You could be a 2 seed. This is massive. You need to make the right decision. So hopefully you give me a listen. Hopefully I'll give you some good advice in order to get you that W. Let me get a... Yeah. So before I get into week number 12 and discuss what I predict, what I think, we're going to look quickly into what happened in week number 11. And we'll start off with the quarterbacks, Mr. Josh Allen putting up 33.8 points against the Dolphins. Massive week for Mr. Allen. I don't expect that this week against Denver. They're third against opposing quarterbacks so far this year. It's going to be a tough matchup. Josh Allen, I believe, is right around my top 10. There's definitely better options out there, but it's hard to bench Josh Allen. He's been extremely good. He's averaging 19.8 points a game. He's at home. It depends what the situation is, but Josh Allen, definitely a guy to look forward to going into the fantasy football playoffs. To the running backs, leading scorer, Mr. Christian McCaffrey. Got nothing bad to say about him. Then we had Mark Ingram, another guy who should always be started. Kamara should always be starting. Austin Eckler is interesting. Since Melvin Gordon's come back, he's still number 3 in the point ranking, so keep rolling the dice with Eckler. He's on a bye this week, though. Gurley with 20.3, Zeke 19.3. The most shocking person up here is Tariq Cohen, who had 18.4, by far his best outing of the season. David Montgomery got hurt late in the week last week after my podcast. And he was questionable going into the game. He played, but he was clearly limited. If that injury continues to nag Montgomery, I think Cohen takes a little spike in his value in fantasy. This week he plays the Giants, which is a favorable matchup. Whether Montgomery plays or not, I actually like Cohen. But going forward for the playoffs, I don't think Tariq Cohen is someone that you can rely on. Wide receivers, number 1 scorer, Mr. I don't want to say it wrong. John Brown, 34.7 points last week. The Bills tore it up. This week, a tougher matchup in Denver, but John Brown's getting into that sphere where he's a must-start play every single week. He's been so consistent. He's averaging 16.2 points per game. John Brown, I think, is a must-start this week and every week going forward. Number 2 scorer, Mr. DJ Chark Jr. with the return of Nick Foles. Maybe didn't expect as great of a week as he had, 30.4 points. But this is a guy who's 5th in the point rankings at wide receiver. He's a man that needs to be started every single week. Next up, we have Mr. Calvin Ridley, 28.3 points, one of the most boomer bust guys in the National Football League, 18th in point rankings. This week he plays the Bucs. I do like him. They're the worst against opposing receivers. But this is not a man that I'm relying on in my fantasy playoffs. This is a man who's a matchup-based wide receiver. So keep an eye on Ridley based off of who he plays this week. I think he's a good play, but he's not a guy I'm confident starting every single week. And quickly, we're going to talk about the tight ends. The leader is Travis Kelce. Number 2, Ryan Griffin. Maybe a man to look at now that Chris Herndon's out for the season. I was a Herndon fan going into the season, but injuries have plagued him. Ryan Griffin, 21.9 points. He's 15th in point rankings, in the tight end point rankings. So maybe a guy to look at, maybe a guy to pick up. Then you have Zach Ertz, who's finally coming to life with 18.4. And an interesting one at number 4, Mr. Kyle Rudolph, 17.7 points. He's had 2 straight good weeks. Adam Thielen's health is clearly not 100% in his last 3 weeks. Rudolph's had over 10 points, his lowest being 11.3. Has a bye this week, so we'll see if Thielen comes back. So with the tight end position being so thin, Rudolph's definitely a guy to keep an eye on, but I think when Thielen comes back, he takes a little bit of a hit, so keep an eye out on that. All right, everybody, so now let's get into the week number 12 predictions, my rankings. Let's go. Week number 12. Crucial week for everybody. Before we get going, the teams on a bye: the 8-3 Minnesota Vikings, the 4-7 Los Angeles Chargers, who just love to lose and break everybody's heart, the 3-7-1 Arizona Cardinals, who also suffered a tough loss, and the 7-4 Kansas City Chiefs. First game of the week, which was supposed to be a primetime game but was moved. The 8-2 Seattle Seahawks travel to the 5-5 Philadelphia Eagles. A good game indeed, a game I am excited for. To the quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, top 5 play for me this week and every week going forward. I don't think you can bench Russell Wilson no matter who he plays. Number 2 for me, play Russell Wilson. Carson Wentz, on the other hand, is not a man who is a must-start. He's got a banged-up receiving core. He's not been the man that he once was. He's never been the same since that ACL tear when he was having an MVP caliber season. Nick Foles led that team to the Super Bowl, and Carson Wentz is just not as good as we all thought. But this week, decent matchup. I have him ranked 8th. I think he's a good play. I play him over the likes of Jameis Winston, Dak Prescott against the Patriots, Tom Brady, Jimmy G. Not the worst play this week, Carson Wentz, and especially against the Seahawks, he's going to have to play good. So Wentz, not the worst play, but going forward, not the best quarterback option like I expected. I actually drafted him expecting him to be better than he has been. So I luckily picked up Josh Allen in that one league. So Wentz is not a top 5 quarterback like I expected him to be. He's a matchup-based guy. This week, I expect a decent game. To the running backs in this game, Chris Carson, number 6 in my rankings. Love Chris Carson this week and every week. To the Eagle running back side, Jordan Howard didn't play last week. They signed Jay Ajayi, but he didn't play. Miles Sanders led the bulk, but he didn't do too much. If Sanders leads the bulk again, I expect a better game this week than last week. I have him ranked 21 because I'm assuming Howard doesn't play, but I don't know for sure, so keep an eye on that situation. If they both play, I'm staying away from both of them. To the wide receivers in this matchup, best option in my opinion, Mr. Tyler Lockett, but keep an eye on his ankle or his shin injury. He left the Monday night game, didn't play in overtime, went to the hospital, and had to leave the San Francisco by himself. So keep an eye out for him, but if he plays, he's a must start. The Eagles wide receiver side is a mess. Alshon Jeffrey didn't play. There's really no one stepping up. If Jeffrey plays, he's by far the best option, but other than him, I'm not trusting any other Eagle wide receiver. DK Metcalf, a guy, definitely a great play. I have him ranked number 27. Play DK Metcalf if you have him. I think he has a good game against the Eagles. Tight ends, Zach Ertz is my number 1 tight end this week with Kelsey on a bye. He's getting the targets with literally no one for Wentz to throw to. So play Zach Ertz. And don't play Jacob Hollister. Next game we have. Whoa, I started on Sunday. I didn't even think about Thursday. Wow. So we're back in track. We're backtracking now. Tomorrow's game, Thursday Night Football, a divisional matchup between the 6-4 Indianapolis Colts and the 6-4 Houston Texans. A huge game for both of these teams. A must-win game for both of these teams. For fantasy purposes, play Deshaun Watson, number 3. He didn't have that great of a week last week in Baltimore. I expect a bounce-back game this week. Play Deshaun Watson. Number 13th in my quarterback rankings is Mr. Jacoby Brissett. I think he has a good game. I think he's actually a very good play this week against the Texans. He's had success against the Texans, even with T.Y. not likely to play. I like Jacoby Brissett this week, so not the worst option, not the best either. Running backs, Marlon Mack broke his hand. He's out indefinitely, so now the Colts wide running back situation is in shambles. They have a 3-man committee, it looks like. Jordan Wilkins, Jonathan Williams, and Nyheim Hines. I'm not confident in any of those 3 until I watch this game tomorrow, but if I'm picking one, it's Jordan Wilkins, who was clearly the number 2 back behind Marlon Mack, but he didn't play last week due to an ankle injury. But Jonathan Williams stepped up and had 100 yards. So this is going to be an interesting situation to watch for fantasy owners, especially those of Mack who desperately want the replacement for Mack. I would say the best option is Jordan Wilkins, but you never know. Nyheim Hines has the pass-catching ability, so maybe he plays a little more. Maybe they split the carries between Williams and Jordan Wilkins, and Hines is the third down back. It's something that you need to watch tomorrow night. Number 23 in my rankings is Carlos Hyde. Not the best play, not the worst play, in a decent matchup with the Colts. Wide receivers play DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm not confident playing any Colts wide receiver, assuming T.Y. Hilton's out. The best option is Zach Pascal, who is 34th in my rankings. Not the best. I actually have Will Fuller ahead of him. We'll see if Will Fuller plays. But other than Hopkins, there's really no receiver worth playing in this game. Tight ends, I'm staying away from them all too. Next game, back to Sunday. We're coming back. We ain't closed on Sunday. The divisional matchup between the 3-7 Buccaneers and the rolling hot 3-7 Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons' defense has come to life. They've been great. The best quarterback play for me in this game is Matt Ryan. I have him ranked 6th. I have Jameis Winston 9th. Although the Falcons' D has been great the last 2 weeks, I don't think that'll stop Jameis Winston from throwing some touchdowns. He'll probably throw some interceptions because he's Jameis Winston. But he's not the worst play this week in a game that should be high scoring. So I like both quarterbacks inside my top 10. Running backs in this game, best option in my opinion is Mr. Brian Hill, who I have ranked 20th. He wasn't that great last week, but I expect a better game this week. So Brian Hill, I'd roll the dice with him, assuming Devontae Freeman is out. On the Bucs side, the best option, Ronald Jones. I have him 25th. I wouldn't be confident starting Ronald Jones, but if you have a guy on a bye, maybe roll the dice for Ronald Jones. To the wide receivers, both Buccaneers receivers are must-plays every single week. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin being the two I mean. So play both of them in this game. Play Julio Jones, obviously, and play Calvin Ridley, who I spoke about earlier, boom or bust guy. I'm expecting a boom week from Calvin Ridley. Play Calvin Ridley. Tight ends, I don't think Austin Hooper plays, so really no tight end worth playing in this game. And the defense to possibly look at is the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to be at home. Like I said, Jameis Winston will make mistakes. So if you have a defense with a tough matchup, maybe take a look at the Falcons, who have been very hot the last 2 weeks. So they're a possible option for you. Think about it. Next game, we have the 3-7 Denver Broncos traveling to Buffalo to take on the 7-3 Buffalo Bills. Spoke earlier about Josh Allen. I have him 7th. It's not the greatest matchup, but he's been so good on his feet with throwing the ball. He hasn't thrown a pick in the last couple games. I think Josh Allen's a good play. So play Josh Allen at home against Denver. Don't play Brandon Allen. To the running backs in this game, the best option, in my opinion, is Philip Lindsay, who I have 16th ahead of Devin Singletary at 18. They're both good options, both RB2s. I play them both, and I'd stay away from everybody else. Wide receivers, best option is Mr. John Brown, who I said earlier is becoming a must-start every single week. Play John Brown even with a tough matchup against Denver. He's just been too consistent to bench. Play John Brown. Best option on the Denver side is Mr. Courtland Sutton, who I have ranked 18th. I would play Courtland Sutton if I owned him this week with confidence. No tight end is really worth playing in this game, but maybe keep an eye on Noah Fant. He's been pretty decent since Allen's taken over a quarterback. He's had good games the last 2 weeks, so if you need a tight end, maybe you had Kelsey and you need a tight end for the week, Fant is someone to look at, assuming that Jared Cook, Vance McDonald, Greg Olsen, Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, Kittle, and Ertz are unavailable. And the Buffalo Bills defense is a great play this week at home against Denver. I have them number 2 in my rankings. Next game, we have the 2-8 New York Football Giants going to Chicago to take on the 4-6 Chicago Bears. The Bears really slow. I don't want to say slacking, but falling off since last season. I wouldn't be confident in playing either quarterback. Daniel Jones is ranked actually on my top 20 list. He's 18th, but tough matchup in Chicago. Running backs, Saquon Barkley, even with a tough matchup, is too talented and gets too much work to play. Play Saquon Barkley. Keep an eye on the Bears running back situation. If Montgomery, I assume he's going to play, assuming he played Sunday night, maybe he'll have a better game. I would play Montgomery if he plays. Tariq Cohen's not the best or worst option. I have him 27th, but he should have a decent game against the Giants. Wide receivers in this game, best option is Allen Robinson, in my opinion. I have him 15th. He's so talented, and he just doesn't have a good quarterback. but I actually expect not a great, but a good game from Allen Robinson. On the Giants side, I don't expect Sterling Shepard to play, so that makes Golden Tate 26 for me. Not the best option, not the worst option. Tight ends, keep an eye on Evan Ingram, but if he plays, he's a must-play. And I love the Bears' defense. They are my number one defense this week. Play the Bears' defense. Next up, we have a divisional matchup between the 5-5 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 0-10 Cincinnati Bengals. Interesting matchup. For the quarterbacks in this game, don't play either. Mason Rudolph's the better option. Should have a good game against the Bengals, whose defense just is not good. Running backs, we'll see if James Conner plays, but if he doesn't, Jalen Samuels is a great play. I have him 13th. Keep an eye on Conner's situation. If he's out, I love Jalen Samuels. Mixon is inside my top 20 at 19. I think he's the best option to play in this game from the Bengals side. Wide receivers, I'm not confident in any Steeler wide receiver right now because I don't know who's going to play and who's not. If Juju plays, Juju's a great play. If Deontay Johnson plays and Juju's out, Deontay Johnson's a good play. If they're both out, maybe take a look at James Washington. A game against the Bengals, like I said, the defense isn't that great. Maybe James Washington has a good week this week. On the on the Bengals side, Tyler Boyd had an awful week, but he's still inside my top 20 at number 19. He voiced his displeasure with not seeing many targets, and maybe that results in him getting a lot this week. So Boyd, number 19 for me. Tight ends in this game, I ranked Vance McDonald number 7 because I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Steelers wide receivers. So if Juju's out, Deontay Johnson's out, Vance McDonald to me is a great play. So if you need a tight end, Vance McDonald for this week, I like very much so. And I like the Steelers defense. Even in Cincinnati, they should force some turnovers and have a good game. Next game, we have the 2-8 Miami Dolphins traveling to the 4-6 Cleveland Browns. Not playing either quarterback. Baker's obviously the better option at 14, while Fitzpatrick is number 20 for me, but I wouldn't be confident in either guy. Running backs, Nick Chubb is inside my top 3 at number 2 this week. I expect a big week from Nick Chubb. Kalen Ballage is number, let's see, where did I put Ballage? 35 for me. And I have Kareem Hunt inside my top 20 at number 22. Kareem Hunt is, I'm not going to say a must start, but it's not a bad flex option. He clearly is a part of this offense. This team's looked good since he's come back. I'd be confident starting both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb this week against the Miami Dolphins. Wide receivers, Odell Beckham Jr. cracks my top 10 for the first time in a while. It's a favorable matchup. Play Odell Beckham Jr. Wouldn't play any Dolphins. Jarvis Landry, not the best or the worst option. I have him inside my top 30. Tight end, take a look at David Njoku. He just got reinstated from the injured reserve. Maybe he's a guy that you pick up if you're desperate at tight end. Take a look at Njoku. I'm not saying start him this week, but maybe add him on your bench and see what happens. And the Browns D, number 3 for me at home against the Dolphins. I like that matchup. So if you have the Browns D, play them. Another divisional matchup next, the 5-5 Carolina Panthers, who looked absolutely atrocious other than Christian McCaffrey last week, against the 8-2 New Orleans Saints. I love Drew Brees this week. He's inside my top 5 and number 4. Play Drew Brees. Do not play Kyle Allen. Last week is a week I would have said maybe consider Kyle Allen, but after that performance, I'm never playing Kyle Allen. Running backs, you're playing Christian McCaffrey. You're playing Alvin Kamara, and that's it. Latavius Murray is just taking a dip. Kamara is a huge part of that offense. Wide receivers, Michael Thomas is the number 1 receiver in fantasy football. Play him. On the Panthers side, DJ Moore is the best option for me at number 16. And I have Curtis Samuel, 31. It's just Kyle Allen's performance, I couldn't believe it. So not confident in Curtis Samuel, more confident in DJ Moore. Tight ends, I have Greg Olsen, 6, and Jared Cook, 8. They're both decent options. And I love the Saints defense. I have them number 5. Like I said, that performance last week by Kyle Allen just was wow. At home, they should have a good game. So maybe add the Saints D this week. Next matchup, we have the 6-4 Oakland Raiders traveling to New Jersey to take on the New York Jets at 3-7. Both quarterbacks, not the worst play, not the best play. I have them 16th, 17th. You know, the rankings, my rankings go based off of who the quarterback is and what I expect. But I'm going to go off of my rankings on this one. I actually like both quarterbacks. I think they're both good plays, especially in daily fantasy. They should be cheap. Darnold's looked good the last 2 weeks. Carr has been pretty good. So I like both quarterbacks, but I wouldn't start either of them over, let's say, a Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, even in tough matchups. That's just my pride. So both not awful options. Running backs, Josh Jacobs is number 7 for me, while Le'Veon Bell is 11. Both great plays. Wide receivers, the best option to me in this game is Tyrell Williams, who I have at number 20. Jamison Crowder, 22. Also both pretty good options. Tight ends, we spoke earlier about Ryan Griffin, who I have ranked number 12. Not the best out. I just wouldn't trust him. The best tight end in this game is Mr. Darren Waller, in my opinion. And I know I said both quarterbacks are going to have decent games, but I do like both defenses. The Raiders I like more, and I have them ranked 8th. Not the greatest option, but not the worst option. Last 1 o'clock game, we have the 3-6-1 Detroit Lions taking on the 1-7 Washington Redskins. Wouldn't play either quarterback. The running back situation in Detroit is all over the place. We'll see if Ty Johnson plays, J.D. McKissick, Bo Scarborough. I wouldn't play any of them. The best running back option to me on the Redskins side is Darius Geis, who I have 32, but Adrian Peterson's there, who I have 33. If Peterson wasn't there, Geis would be a little bit higher in my rankings. Wouldn't be confident in either of them, but if I'm picking one, it's Geis. To the wide receivers in this game, Kenny Golladay outside my top 10 at 11 just because Jeff Driscoll, We'll see if Stafford's back. Kenny Golladay is a much better play, in my opinion. Marvin Jones, number 24. He had a pretty good game last week. He's a boomer bust guy, like I always say. I'm not going to say he booms. I'm not going to say he busts. I think he has a decent game this week. Redskins side, Terry McLaurin is the best option at the wide receiver position for me, but I wouldn't be confident playing him just yet. Wouldn't be confident in any tight end in this game. And both defenses are decent options. This should be a boring game, but they're not the best options either. This is a game, when it comes on the red zone, you're going to be like, Scotty, come on, change it. To the 4 o'clock games, first 4:05 game, we have the 4-6 Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the 5-5 Tennessee Titans. Not confident playing either quarterback. Derrick Henry and Leonard Fournette must starts. Wide receivers, not confident in any Titan. Definitely confident in DJ Chark and more confident in D.D. Westbrook. Keep an eye on him. Tight ends, no tight ends worth playing. Both defenses, not bad. Not bad options. This should be a low-scoring game. Jaguars, for me, are number 7, while the Titans are number 8. Next up, the game of the week, in my opinion. The 6-4 Dallas Cowboys travel to New England to take on the 9-1 New England Patriots. A huge game I am very excited for. This is America's game, America's team, the Cowboys versus what really is America's team, the Patriots. Everyone is going to be tuning into this one. There's only 2 4 o'clock games. I'm very, very excited for this one. Both quarterbacks, 10 and 11 respectively. In my rankings, I don't think they're the greatest of options. They're not the worst either. I would play Dak over Brady, but I wouldn't be confident in either guy. Running backs, Ezekiel Elliott, number 5 for me. Best Patriot running back, in my opinion, is James White this week, who I have 17th. Then I have Sony Michel, 28, and Rex Burkhead, 36. I'd play James White. Wouldn't be confident in the other two, but if you got guys on bye, someone injured, maybe roll the dice with them. Wide receivers, best option in my opinion, Mr. Julian Edelman, number 7, threw a touchdown last week. I'm going to say he catches one this week, even though he should have caught one last week. Julian Edelman, best option in this game, and on either side. Then you got Amari Cooper, number 13. He takes a little bit of a hit just because it's a tough matchup against Stephon Gilmore, and we'll see if he even plays. I think he plays, but he takes a bit of a hit in a tough matchup against the Patriots. Michael Gallup's a guy who could step up this week. I like Michael Gallup this week against the Patriots. I do play Michael Gallup. And then Mohamed Sanu, I have ranked 27th. Not the best, not the worst option. Tight ends, not confident in any tight end in this game. And The Patriots defense have ranked 6th. They're at home. The Cowboys have been tough against opposing defenses, but at home the Patriots should force a turnover, so they're a good option. To the Sunday Night Football game, we have the 8-2 Green Bay Packers taking on the 9-1 San Francisco 49ers. A great game I'm very excited for, but not as excited for that Patriot-Cowboy game, but that's beside the point. Quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers 5th, Jimmy G 12. Play Aaron Rodgers. Don't necessarily play Jimmy G, but don't necessarily not play Jimmy G. Running backs, best option, Aaron Jones. It's a tougher matchup against that Niners defense, but Jones always seems to find the end zone, so play Aaron Jones. Best Niner option at running back is Tevin Coleman, who's been going down. I expect a good game from Coleman. I have him 14th, though, so play Coleman. Play Jones. That's it. Wide receivers, Davante Adams, best option, number 5. Play Davante Adams. On the Niners side, if Emmanuel Sanders goes, I have him 14th. And I got to look at his Deebo Samuel, ranked 28th. He had a good game last week. He's been on the uprise. Deebo Samuel, a man to look for. Tight ends, George Kittle if he plays number 2, Jimmy Graham number 10. And I wouldn't play either defense in this game. And to the Monday Night Football game, a great game, maybe the second best game of the week. The 8-2 Baltimore Ravens travel to L.A. to take on the 6-4 Los Angeles Rams. Play Lamar Jackson. That's all I have to say. Don't play Jared Goff. Running backs, best option is Todd Gurley, who I have ranked 9th, Mark Ingram 12th. 2 guys that should be in that shouldn't be benched. To the wide receivers, we had an interesting situation last week where Robert Woods was a late scratch. Keep an eye on that situation. It doesn't look like Brandon Cooks is going to play. So the best option for me is Cooper Kupp. Even though he's also not been that great the last 2 weeks, but Cooper Kupp's too hard of a guy to bench for me. Keep an eye on Robert Woods' situation right now. He's 23, but if he's out, Josh Reynolds would take that spot. Josh Reynolds not a bad play when Woods is out, or if Cooks is probably going to be out. So if Woods and Cooks are out, I think Josh Reynolds is my 20th. I know Josh Reynolds will be my 23rd guy. If Woods is in, Reynolds takes a hit. Wouldn't be confident in any Raven receiver. The best option for me is Marquise Brown. But you're starting Mark Andrews on the Ravens side. He's been a great number. He's been a top 5 tight end this year. Play Mark Andrews. Gerald Everett barely played last week. I have him 11th. I wouldn't be confident starting him. And I wouldn't play either defense. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for this edition of the Fantasy Football Guy podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm your host, Guy Vataco, and I wish you the best of luck this week.